Welcome back to Java for Beginners, and today we're going to start working with multiple classes. We're going to get a lot more object-oriented in this programming tutorial. And so what we're going to do is we're going to redesign this little program that we've got going here. We're going to make a class that represents a person, and we're also going to make a class that handles all the input. So since we were working on input in the last class, we're going to do that one first. So you're going to go to your default package, you're going to right click and hit new class, and then you're going to call this input. And then we're going to need a constructor. So you're going to say inputs, open brackets. Now this class needs a variable, and it's going to be a scanner. So it's going to be scanner read, and then I'm going to hover over scanner and I'm going to hit import, because Eclipse is awesome and it does that for us. And then I'm going to say read is equal to new scanner system.in. And this class is just going to make it a lot easier to work with inputs. And it's also going to help me show you how you work with multiple classes in one program. And it's actually very easy, and we've actually already done it. So it's going to be a pretty easy tutorial. Now, this method called GetInput, we're going to copy and paste this into our input class. Except we're not going to call it GetInput, we're just going to call it Get. How about getString? Yeah, I like calling it getString. Okay, so that's our first method, and because of that method we can get rid of this, and all the way up to here in our main class. Now Eclipse is going to give us some errors for a little bit, but that's okay. We got a few more things that I want to add. First, I want to say we want to create a method that's going to get doubles, which is going to be really easy at this point. We're going to say GetDouble, and then we'll say, well, first of all, we'll say, sorry, I'm trying to think about two things at once. My brain's dying on me. So we're going to say double input equals get string not just get, well, we want to start with a string. And the reason why is if we're making a method to get the double, we want to make sure it's a double. And that's not, I got to think about that for a second. So we're going to use some code that you probably won't see. I'm probably not going to explain in the beginner series, because it's something that, I don't know, you don't really need to fully understand right now. So we're going to use a try and catch, and we're going to say, you may not understand what this is, but that's okay. We're going to actually skip that. We're going to say double D equals double capitalized dot parse double inputs, and then we're going to put this inside a try catch. And like I said, you may not understand what this means, but it's a way of making it harder to break your program, which is very important. And it's going to be a number format exception key, right? Hold on, let me double check. Number format exception. Okay. And then if that happens, we're gonna say, we're gonna put this into a while loop. We're gonna say while. We also need a boolean. I know there's so much that goes into this, isn't there? We're gonna put this whole thing into a while loop, but first we need a boolean, and we'll say boolean valid equals false while valid does not equal, well, while valid equals false, it's going to have to go to all of this. So what this is going to say is valid equals false, and if this is successful, we're going to say valid, or actually there's a finally clause that we have to do. Sorry, it's been a little while since I've done one of these. Valid equals true. And then we're going to end our loop. And then at the very end of this loop, we will return input. Oh no, we'll return D. But we need to define D up here. So make sure you do that. And then we return D as the very last thing. Now what this basically means is that while valid is false, which by default it's false, we are going to get our string from our input, and then we are going to attempt to turn the string into a double. Now, on the off chance that the user did not enter a double, valid will be set to false. Now, if they do enter a double, valid will be true. But since if they enter in the wrong kind of input, valid will be equal to false, and it will circle around the loop again until they finally enter it. So that we should test that just to make sure. So we're going to go back to our main class. Instead of saying main m equals new main, we're going to say input equals new inputs, and then we're going to change this to input.getString, and then we'll change age. For this one, let's just do input.getString because we haven't set up an integer yet. And then for this one, we're going to get rid of the parse double, and we're going to say input.getDouble. So it's the third number that we want to test. So we'll enter some letters, we'll enter some numbers, we'll enter a double, and everything works okay. Now if I were to go through it again, and I enter this, and then let's say I enter some letters on accident. It says my height is equal to 0. What if I, yeah, my program just terminates because of it. Well, I mean, that's okay, I guess. You would get a massive error if that was, I don't know, it's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and add an integer to our inputs. So we're going to say int get integer, and we'll say, we'll pretty much copy this, right? except instead of parsing to a double, let's say integer dot parse ints. And let's change this to an integer. And let's change this to I. And there we go. We got a nice little input class that we can use effectively. So I told you we are also going to make a person class because we are getting all this information about a person, so we should have a class to store it in. And so we're going to go up to our default package and make a new class called person. And we're going to have a constructor, and our constructor is going to be a little bit different. We're going to say person, and we're going to want to accept some values to our person. You know, the first thing is going to be a string name. The next one could be a integer age, a double height, a double h, and a double for weight. And actually, let's change this to a, this to n, because I'm not ready to show you how to do it with the actual names. And then so we'll go up here and we're going to make some variables. We'll call string name, integer age, double height, and a double weight. I'm going to change this to a capitalized N. And then in our constructor we're going to say name equals N, age equals A, height equals H, and weight equals W. And then we're going to make a method, well, let's just make a method called print. That way we could print all of our information to the screen at once. So it's going to be a void. It's not going to return any type of value. So we're going to say void print. And we're going to say system.out.println name we'll say age, and it's giving me an error because I don't have a semicolon, right? Well, I also did lowercase name instead of uppercase name. Java is case sensitive. I don't think I actually mentioned that, but it is, if you haven't figured that out yet. Heights. And this is another way to do things rather than using escape sequences. Although, most of the time you'd rather use escape sequences. Okay. So now let's go back to our main class, and let's say, now that we get this information about this person, instead of printing it out like this, and actually we need to wait. So say system.out.println enter weight. Let's go ahead and make a double. Oh, and I haven't showed you guys this yet. Another way to declare a variable is to do comments. Since I have double defined here and my height and my weight are going to be doubles, I might as well just put a comma in between them, and then I don't have to write double a second time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say weight equals input.getDouble. And then we're going to make a new person. We're going to say person p equals new person. And remember how I told you that the constructor is going to be a little bit different? Well, it is. Now our constructor accepts different parameters like some other ones did, like the scanner object. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in our name, we're going to put in our age, we're going to put in our height, and we'll put in our weight. And to print out our person, we say p.print. And it's as simple as that. And there you go. John, age 34, 8.4 height, and 175. And you know, after each one of these things, you might want to put like inches or, you know, here, let's do that. Let's go over here, and when we say height, we put feet. And then for weight, we say, so how you abbreviate pounds? I want to say it's how you abbreviate pounds. So blah, 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 blah. And you might want to add a space in between those. And if you noticed, if I open back up the console, there's a space in between where I enter the number and right here. That's because we used a print line somewhere. Not here, but in our, we used a print line somewhere, and I assume it's in our double of our input class. Maybe. Or no, it's in the main class. See right here, I use print line. But we want you to enter your information on the same line. So we say John Doe. And there you go, you got some information about John Doe. And so this is how working with different classes work, because it's super easy. You know, we've added two of our own classes, one called input and one called person. This one stores data so we can print it out later. And you know, you could make this easier to use, or you could do other things with a person. You could make them walk somewhere, but we don't have graphics, so we're not going to do that. And the input class is really nice. It's the first time I've thought of doing it this way, and I think it's definitely worth it. Because then it makes our main method really simple to do. You don't have any while loops or anything. But the point of using all these different classes is so that you don't have to rewrite the same code over and over again. Because if we had not have written those methods for input, we would have had to do a while loop in between each one of these statements. And that doing code that way is just really, really painful because you're always rewriting code. Object-oriented programming allows you to create an object that you can reuse over and over and over again so that you only have to write the code once. And so it gives you a great advantage when it comes to programming. But that's all I'm going to cover today. Thanks for watching. If you want to see any more of my videos, make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions, write down a comment down below. I'll try to answer it the best I can. And I'll see you guys next time.